Is anywhere.
Okay. Sign in.
I'm in right now.
Okay, hang on.
Hi, Carol, Margaret. Good to see you're here. And we have the dynamic duo tonight as hosts. So it should be hosts, plural. So Talia and Donna are here someplace.
Indeed, we are
Yeah,
hiding behind the great big ball of yarn.
like the Wizard of Oz, the goddesses of Oz tonight.
Yes.
You're behind the curtain.
I'm here.
Okay, well, it's just, yeah, we'll see how we do here.
Sorry. I'm trying not to run you over, sorry.
Hey, Margaret, did Mark was trying to reach you? Did he contact you?
I did reply to her.
Oh, okay, so somebody from his office, okay. Good. Like yesterday, maybe? Or today? Whoops.
Sorry, were you talking to me?
Yeah. So,
Oh,
so
so-
did Mark's office reach out to you yesterday or today?
Yes, about the
Oh.
library director
Yeah.
interviews, yes.
That's great. It's really great. Okay, good. And that works for you?
Yes,
Good. And thank you again for doing that.
well, I don't know what, I'll have much part in it, but it'll be good to be there.
Yeah, well, you're kind of representing the library, so.
Right,
an important part of it. Okay, we got Chris, Margaret, Carol. So well, I guess at this point we have a quorum. Wait a couple more minutes. I don't want to, Donna and Talia are in for a long day there. They're still at the office, so want to kind of get moving here so we can get them home. And then Eileen, our media presence, won't be here tonight. There's so many meetings tonight. It's unbelievable. There's like 4 different meetings. They're all important. I don't know why they end up on Thursday nights. But let's see here. So we're missing Lauren and missing who else is, Ruby, looks like, yeah.
Pat,
Yes.
okay, so before we start, and it can end up in the minutes so that everyone's aware of it.
Mhm.
The Ramsdale entryway design, because Mark isn't able to be here tonight, he asked me, well, he asked us if we could just mention to you that if the trustees want to offer feedback on that design that was presented,
Mhm.
he needs that feedback by the end of July, because the architects are ready to do their final plan.
Okay, that's okay. We should just probably have a special meeting just for that.
Okay.
It's probably what we should do. That gives us time, but
Okay, I just wanted to
thank you.
put that
Yeah,
out there so you had that deadline.
Yeah,
Yep, I'm putting
that's
it in the
good.
meetings,
Thank you.
in the minutes. If you want me to, you can call to order if you want. I can call roll if you want, Patrick.
Okay, yeah, why don't we get moving here? Because it's it's 5:36. I guess that's time to start. So go ahead, Chris.
All right. Patrick.
Present.
All right. Carol.
Present.
Lauren is not present yet. Ruby, not present yet. Chris, present. And Margaret.
Present.
Great.
Okay, there are no June minutes yet, and it's my fault. I took notes in lieu of Chris, and I somehow threw the notes out. And then I contacted Amy at Town Hall to get a hold of the recording of the meeting. And she's actually been out quite a bit for vacation. She's out right now.
I have that link if you need it, Patrick.
You have a link to the recording?
Yeah, I watched it. I mean,
Oh, great. Well, please send that to me, and then I'll write those up. So that's my fault there. Ed is at another meeting tonight. So there is a Friends. Did he send this to everybody or no? Not a Friends. Okay, let me pull that up for a second here. Take me 1 minute. Or more than a minute. Okay, let's see here. And here it comes. That's into one. And that's not it. Hang on.
Not bad background music.
No, my fat thumb has the wrong button. Sorry about that. Thank God it stopped before the melody came in because it's a salsa version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That would have been really embarrassing. I'm not joking either. Let me get out of this. Okay, this is a Friends report. It's from Ed and Holly. Neither of us can make it to the meeting tonight, so I'm sending this quick Friends report. We continue to sell books outside on weekends when the weather cooperates. The books and the chairs draw large numbers of people throughout the weekend. We had an art sale on July 4th weekend instead of the book sale. It was planned for outdoors, but because of rain, we moved the Saturday sale indoors. Apologies to Saturday staff for the lack of notice, but also a thanks for their flexibility. It was a last minute decision to move it rather than cancel. It was a big success. We were busy almost all day, both Saturday and Sunday, and we brought many, many people into the library. We didn't count patrons, but you can get those numbers by comparing door counters for that Saturday versus an average summer Saturday. We are trying to clear all Friends materials out of the community room so that it is available for programming. There are a few fixtures from the art sale which we sold but have not been picked up yet. As soon as they are gone, we can clear out the remaining art and books. Holly and Lori, who's our children's librarian downstairs at Mason, are working on providing museum passes which were suspended during COVID. The tent in the children's garden, which was purchased with a donation, is holding up very well, much better than the 4 pop-up tents we used last year. And that's from Ed and Holly. So I guess we want to probably thank them in a minute for their hard work. And just a question here while we're on this. So Talia and Donna, do you have any more information about the museum passes?
Yes, they are currently available, having been cataloged today.
Great.
At
Library,
Mason-
yeah.
No, at Mason only, because we don't have as many as we've had in the past, and we don't have 2 of them. And we figured it would be less confusing for patrons rather than having some at one and some at the other, to simply say, for this summer, the passes are at Mason. As we're ramping back up to having a fuller complement of them. And there is definitely a hope, once we have a new director and we've all sort of settled back into having one job apiece, to have everything available, to have the museum passes available through an online booking system, which will make it easier for patrons.
Okay, so as it stands now, then they have to go in and their luck has to be good to get the pass? Is that's?
Yes, at this point, it is the same as it has been in the past.
All right.
with
What,
the
which,
exception
which,
of it being
and
QR.
which museum, where are the passes for right now?
Therefore, we have one pass for the Clark, two
Okay.
for Mass MoCA,
Mm-hmm.
Botanical Garden, we have one, and two for the state
parks.
parking, the state pass.
Yeah, it's the Parks and Recreation,
Yeah,
state parks thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, and that's good. And just so, unless this has changed, before COVID even, it made no sense that there was nothing available for the Norman Rockwell Museum. I mean, it's right up the street.
Holly is working on that.
Okay, but I called them, and what they said is, and this is on their website, somehow there's a list of prices and stuff, and then there's one that says pay what you can. That's their way of, when I talked to them, they said, we can't really, the passes, they found that they were kind of getting abused all over before, so they really weren't giving a discount or anything much on that. But they said, frankly, you can get in for free on the pay what you can if you click that instead. So it's not something they wanted to broadcast because then everybody was doing that, but they told me that's what we should tell people to do. So that's actually really good because that way it's not affected by quantity or anything, and it's done online.
Mhm.
So if you want to just pass that on, I haven't checked it to make sure that's still intact, but that's about 3 months ago. That's what they told me. So that's actually good news because anybody can go then. We just got to get the word out somehow.
Okay.
So that's at least, that's good. Okay. So that's, any questions on a friend's report over there? Anything we should talk about? I mean, Ed's hit it on the head. This was a hard thing for the staff to all of a sudden be deluged on a rainy day with a whole lot of people in a small space. And there's a lot of, people still concerned about how many people are squeezing in and all of that. I can say one thing, I'll just say at this point too, we've got to get better ventilation and fans in these libraries. I mean, the pandemic, as we know, this stuff is not going away right away. And to have $24 fans that have really not much impact at all, it's moving the air around, but it's not really cleaning at all. So I think that's something as we go, there's got to be a priority. I mean, we're into the second year and a half of this thing already. So I think that's just an important consideration. Let's see here. I've got to get back into the agenda here. So if anybody, what is the next,
Next
what's the
item
next
is
agenda item?
vote on request from state aid.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Yeah, let's go through those. Talia or Donna, do you want to take us through these?
Sure. I'll start, and a lot of these I sent you attachments for. So if you have questions, we can talk about them a little bit. So the 1,500 is for programming through December 2022, and that's a standard ask every 6 months. The shelving is in order to free up space in the local history room to expand the local history collection to be more inclusive and to put some of the Du Bois collection in there. We need to move the poetry collection out, and we don't really have any shelving that's available for that. So Donna and I went and measured, I measured the linear footage of the poetry section as it stands now, plus, a little extra for increase. And we looked around the library, we found a place where those shelves will fit. We measured it, it's got a nice long space. There's plenty of passing space so people aren't feeling cramped. And we can figure that we can set up a very nice little poetry nook there. But we definitely need more shelving. The shelving that's downstairs is not suitable for that. And we looked around and we found the shelving. I think I suggested shelving from Broad Art. There was similar shelving from Demco, but the Demco pricing for shipping is really prohibitive, whereas Broad Art is much less like that. And also the largest shelving available from Demco isn't quite large enough. So that's that one. The die cutting machine is a request from Children's. It will be shared between the two branches. And I sent you an attachment for that as well. The other one that they looked at is a lesser outlay initially, but everything you use it with, you have to buy specific pre-cut paper and accessories from that company. Whereas the one that they're requesting, which is more expensive up front, you can use any kind of paper, and you can actually get the different die shapes because many libraries have this unit. You can get different dies from other libraries, and librarians are really happy to share them. So that cuts down on sort of consumable cost later. And the $300 for additional books, or sorry, additional bags. The 1,000 books before kindergarten is an ongoing children's library initiative across the state, and they're running out of bags because it's really popular.
Okay, thank you. I guess let's open this up for questions first, I guess.
Well, we need to make a motion. Do we want to consider them all at once? Or would you like to consider?
No, I think we have to do it separately, actually. Unfortunately, so I guess we start at the top of that.
You want to make a motion?
Sure, I will. Yeah. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Carol.
All right, discussion.
So this is the first item is
1,500 from state aid for programming through December 2022.
yeah. So the programming is this online or is it both libraries? What kind of what is it for?
This is the standard ask that for all the programming, we then
Okay.
divide it between the libraries and between adult and children's. At the
Okay.
moment, we are not doing any in-person programming inside because of the lack of HVAC. Some of the children's programs are being conducted or were being conducted outside. I think they've taken a bit of a break from that because of the weather, because it's getting warm. We had one adult program at the end of June that was outside in the children's garden at Mason, which was a music program. But apart from that, the adult programming is pretty much still entirely remote. And frankly, we'll probably stay like that because we're actually getting much better engagement doing it that way. And we've gotten extremely good feedback from people. Our primary programming period for adults is in the winter. And a lot of people would rather turn on their computer and sit in their living room than drive if the weather is questionable. So gotten a lot, much better feedback about that.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you. I think any other questions, comments for this item? No? Okay, I guess we can vote on this then. Chris, you can take it over there.
Sure, we'll take a vote. So Patrick,
Yes.
Carol,
Aye.
Lauren,
Yes.
Ruby is still not present yet. Chris, aye. Margaret? Thank you. All right, motion passes. Need a motion for the second one, 1,900 from state aid to pay for shelving for Mason Poetry Collection.
Second.
All right, so moved. Discussion for 1,900 from state aid?
Yeah, I have a few questions here because I know that the library commissioners are really kind of highlighting the fact that there's got to be pandemic considerations on any kind of shelving or anything that affects the library. So my first question is is there anything that's mobile that has wheels on it? Because that's really what they're going for these days. Because then we can move it any place, including at the Ramsdale, if we don't need it in Mason anymore. But I think that we need to. It probably makes it more expensive, but I think we really do need to look at that. That way, we can move it any place that we need to for whatever reason. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is I'm worried that it's maybe not be ADA accessible because there's a height limit on how shelves go. So I think we don't want to buy anything at this point that's not ADA accessible. It may mean it makes this more complicated. But I think that we have to be really aware of those two things, which again may push the price up here. So I guess the question is, did this company that you showed us this, did they have any other model that's more souped up here?
I didn't look specifically for those because we have a certain space we're trying to fit it in.
Yeah, yeah,
And if we make it shorter, because the thing is, if you put it on casters and it's too tall, it's a tipping hazard.
and-
So if we put it on casters, we'd have to look at shorter ones. And also, if you want them to be ADA compliant, they'll also have to be shorter shelves, which will mean that they'll need to be longer. And we're
Yeah.
not sure they'll fit in the space where it is. But we can certainly go back and continue looking.
Why don't we look? I'll make some
Wait,
calls.
Donna has something.
What we were trying to do was to keep the reading room open so that if you have a bigger gathering down the road, that it, like the movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
That it would be uninhibited, with having shelving in the way. So
Yeah.
that's why we were trying to keep it off to the side.
See, with the movies, a lot of times they use things to blockade to keep people out of certain areas anyway. So that's probably where, if it was on wheels, then we could use it as barriers when we need to too. So I guess I'll make a couple calls on this too, like to Rob Cullen, who's probably seeing a lot of the same issues we're having here, space as opposed to mobile, as opposed to ADA, and see if he has, if he knows of anything else out there. The other possibility is we've got some great furniture makers in Housatonic. Maybe we just have somebody do something custom and do it that way, and then provide for our local economy too. So let's I think we should just table this then for next time. The money isn't the issue. It's just getting this what we need for sure. So
Is there gonna be any damage to the collections? I thought part of this was to preserve what's coming in.
What you mean, what's coming in the Du Bois collection?
Yeah.
So that's currently on a bit of hold. The meeting we were supposed to have yesterday that Margaret and Donna and I were going to be at was canceled for various reasons that I wasn't, anything I say would be hearsay, so I'm not going to talk about it, but it was canceled. And so I'm not quite sure where we're at with that in terms of time frame. But Randy's original hope for the time frame to be by the end of August is pretty definitely not going to happen because the town budget's 18 months out. And 18 months ago, this wasn't on the table. So figuring out how to make everything work with increased cost of labor and supplies and resources is a work in progress, and it's not going to be solved by the end of August. At the moment, we don't have that collection in-house. We don't know when it will be in-house. And the shelving is for the poetry collection, not for them. And I think until it becomes in-house, I don't know how Randy's preserving it, but I don't want to say it's not our problem, but that's not our consideration at the moment.
Okay, so that's again, there can be further discussion, obviously, but I would just recommend just tabling this, I guess, till we know about that, and then we can investigate other possibilities here of what we could do.
Patrick, can I ask a couple questions first before we pass by this?
Sure.
Now, we can't have all shelving ADA compliant in the library. They would all have to be so low that you would lose a tremendous amount of shelving space. So what are the rules and regulations? Talia and Donna, for example, is someone who needs ADA accessibility and they want to go and get something on the top shelf of the poetry. Do you just help them with that? What is your policy?
We help them, or a lot of times people with mobility issues come in with somebody
Okay.
to help them. But if they don't, if they're alone, we absolutely help them both here and at Ramsdale.
So I just want to say, since we're addressing a poetry collection, and I understand your reasoning for why you want to do this, I'm not sure it's necessary to try and look at ADA compliance on that shelving for the poetry collection. It looks like you've done some good work on, measurements and figuring out a good solution for that. So I just wanted to add that before we get too complicated with ADA compliance on this particular shelving area.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I agree.
You know, it's not, let's, you know, we're not gonna have the whole library with ADA shelving.
Yep, so let's, yeah. I think that the casters, honestly, is a more important aspect of this anyway.
Is it for the poetry area? That's what, you know, are the casters essential for the poetry section where they want to place it?
Most of our shelving is not mobile at all.
Mhm.
So we just have to, as we move forward in things, we just need to do that as a matter of practice. There's the library commissioners, it's on their website, there's a planning resource called Library Space, and there's a whole thing about pandemic considerations for library design, about functional and safe interiors and a whole bunch of things. So this is moving more towards what they're saying we need to do. Because there was a problem when we had to really limit things and everything was shut off. This area was shut off, that area was shut off. These are just barriers. You can, if the decision is made to, we've got to do something overnight, you can just put these things in front of something rather than moving heavy furniture and everything else. So that's just they're saying, look at these pandemics are going to be in our future and we have to assume we're going to have other shutdowns. We may even have one as soon as October or November at this point. So anyway, but we can continue any other discussion on this thing for now, because we should just put this aside until we have an idea of what's happening with the Du Bois collection and what's happening, what's out there in the world on the furniture side.
Can I just say something?
Yep.
I'm curious though, and I don't know whether it was Donna or Talia who said it, about if the shelving is tall, the casters, I mean, you can't have casters on really tall shelving because it's unstable. So it's kind of like casters or tall shelving.
Well, yes.
From what I know about shelving and what, again, I don't know whether it was Talia or Donna who said it. Didn't you basically say that as well?
Yes, yeah, I said that the concern is when it's as tall as it needs to be to fit height-wise into the width that we have, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because we have a certain amount of linear feet that we have to accommodate already. Yes, Margaret?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Talia.
Oh, I thought you were making a point.
Yes, it was just to say, I don't think any ADA solution is putting central sections of a library's collections onto shelving with casters.
Libraries, that's what they're doing now, though. If you look at Greenwich, just did an amazing renovation, and everything is movable.
Even very tall shelving or just
Yeah,
shorter
because
shelving?
what you do is they attach it to a wall where it can be released. It may have some kind of latch or something on the wall to keep it in place so it's stable. But then if you need to move it, you just unlatch it and wheel it out. So let's just check in. I mean,
Okay.
we've never
It's a
talked
much
about
more complicated system than
yeah,
simple
but-
casters.
yeah, it is. But
I guess,
let's just.
I would be curious if this is a time sensitive thing. Like, is this something the library needs now, or is this something that Talia and Donna thinks we can wait on?
Well, it's very tied up with, it's one of those multiple moving pieces because we can't move much further on the Du Bois collection until we have more space. And the easiest way to make more space in that room is to move the poetry collection, which doesn't really belong in the local history room anyway.
Are there more considerations that we need before we alter the foot plan of the library based on this donation, which may or may not be coming in? I guess I'm curious as to whether or not we should be moving forward with this to accommodate a donation that we are not sure where we are in where it is right now.
My understanding is that the select board, and this is an understanding from Mark, who's not able to be here today, and so he may have had subsequent conversations since he said this to us. But what he said to Donna and I in a meeting was that the select board had voted to accept the donation and that the library was the logical home for it. And so we've been working in meetings with Randy and in meetings with other people trying to figure out, how it's going to work, because there are a number of considerations for a collection, a valuable collection that we don't really have the information for. We don't know how many linear feet that donation is. We don't know what the objects are. We don't know how best to preserve them, if they need special preservation. I mean, we have a lot of things that we don't know yet either, which is why one of the first things that I said in the proposal I sent to all of you was, we really need more information before we know how to proceed. But my understanding is that somehow that donation is going to end up in the library, and that it has to be accessible. I just don't know the specifics of exactly what the donation entails, and also how we're going to put it. So it's, again, one of those multiple moving pieces.
Why, I understand that the library directors, interim and permanent and so forth, report to the town manager, but why is the select board empowered to accept library donations with no input from the library?
I have no idea.
I really think the board should make some statement about that, because I have a lot of concerns about this collection, which I'll leave it there. That's it.
And I have
Good.
one last question around that, around the shelving itself. Do you see any merit in ordering these bookcases and moving the collection now, even if the Du Bois collection was not added to the library?
I could definitely see a merit to it, because one of the things that we've talked about was partnering with the Du Bois Freedom Center, which I've gotten the name wrong, but the one that's across the street from us. And we would like to expand the local history collection to highlight African-American heritage and Indigenous heritage in the region, and to be able to sort of have, like, if people go with small children to the place across the street, and that's a very formal museum-like place, we would love them to be able to say to the family with the antsy 2-year-old, if you go across the street, there are, books for younger children and a sort of cozy reading area that have the same information, but presented in a different way, in a less museum-like way. And so I actually do think, and Donna, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so I don't know if Donna agrees with me. But I think that there is a merit to expanding the scope of what we call the local history room to be more inclusive.
Definitely.
And is there a long lead time in ordering the shelving if we do vote on it, or if we table it for another month?
When I looked at it, it said the broad art stuff said it was in stock. I don't know where that stock lives, so I don't know how long it would take to get here.
So the sort of the Chris's question about the expediency of getting the poetry out of there to make room for Du Bois, was that really a thing, or is it more to, since that's going to happen, you might as well get those poetry books moved to where you want to get them moved to be prepared for this other stuff coming in? And is that still somewhat time sensitive, even if it doesn't happen by the end of August?
I'm really not sure we have the data to accurately answer that question, because the meeting that was scheduled for yesterday morning and it was canceled the day before, we haven't had, because Mark was on vacation for a week, or before that, we haven't really had a chance to regroup with him to find out what the forward trajectory is. So I don't think we can answer that.
Okay, so if you don't get the poetry stuff out of there in the next month, it's probably not going to make a difference. Like, we have time to investigate different shelving, and we can revisit this next month and make a decision. Is that?
That's what I'm I think there's a little bit more information we could use from other resources like Rob Cullen, who does this stuff day in and day out, because it's just not something we're used to talking about. So it's 10% of our library state aid money. So I think we should just be, prudent with that.
I
Okay.
mean, I don't think that there are any major objections here, right? It's just, we just want to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to put it.
I mean, we can't answer the question that you just asked, Lauren, and
Okay.
therefore we don't really, well, we can't answer it. So,
Okay,
if the board makes a decision to hold it over, the board makes that decision and we work with it.
right. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that's, so I make the motion that we table this just till the next meeting for further discussion and further information.
Okay.
Anyone second that?
Second,
All right, let's vote to table this discussion until next meeting. Patrick
Yes.
and Carol,
Aye.
Lauren,
yep.
Chris, yes, and Margaret.
Yes.
All right, so this will be tabled until the next meeting. All right, next item under consideration, we need a motion for discussion for $650 from state aid for a die cutting machine for youth services. Do we have a motion for discussion? Margaret, a second? Patrick? Thank you.
I
Any
guess,
discussion?
yeah, discussion, and I'm ignorant here. Can somebody just describe what a die cast machine, what that is? And all of that, how big is it, what does it weigh, and what are the ages of people that can use this thing?
It isn't so much that the patrons will use it, it's that it will be used for easily creating supplies for crafts and for other things. It's not, it's not something that people are gonna check out.
Okay,
Or that will be set up and be used in the library by anyone but staff.
Mhm.
And if it is used, it will be like under supervision by a young volunteer or something.
And it'll be shared between Mason and Ramsdale.
Yes, it will
Okay.
predominantly live at Mason. But Fran, our Ramsdale Children's Librarian, is here one day a week, and so she would use stuff here.
great. Okay, that's great. Any other questions or discussion?
All right, move to a vote. All
So-
right,
Before you do that, we want to just make sure, I've got the printout from what they sent, so we're moving to the vote for the 650, assuming Talia and Donna that you want your preferred choice of the Ellison.
Yes, I mean, it's much more, I mean, we've been involved in the conversation, but the research was all done by the children's librarians, and that's the one that they are more comfortable with,
And
yes.
therefore, the 650 is more in line with the purchase of that one rather than your second choice.
Yes,
Okay, and thank you very much for your thorough presentation of packet, your packet prior to the meeting. That was very helpful.
Yeah, excellent. Appreciate it.
thank you.
So I guess
We'll
we
move-
can vote if there's no further discussion.
all right, so this is $650 from state aid for the die cutting machine for youth services. Patrick,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Lauren,
Yes,
Margaret,
Yes.
and Chris, yes. Motion passes. Next item for discussion, we need a motion, 300 additional 1,000 books before kindergarten bags. Do we have a motion?
yes, I move that we pay $300 for additional 1,000 books before kindergarten bags.
A second?
Second.
Margaret, all right, we can move to discussion. Thank you.
so what are these? These are our bags for kids to, when they take books out, to put it in a bag?
Well, that's how they end up getting used, is that then they have a library bag that they can bring to the library. But we have various programs, like the summer reading program you get a packet, and the first thing you get is the bag with various items in it. And this is simply a different program. It's 1,000 books before kindergarten. And when people come in and ask to participate or are encouraged to participate in the program, they get a bag with sort of a starter set of information and other things about early childhood literacy. And then a lot of families do then use that bag as the child's library bag. It's where the books live. It's so they don't get lost, which is very helpful. So yeah, but it's not just here, have a branded bag. There's
Right.
a little bit more to it than that.
What is it? What does it look like, the bag?
I don't actually have an example of it because we've given them all out, which is why we need
Oh,
the
okay.
more. But it's like, it's one of those non-woven, I don't even really know what the material is, but it looks kind of like, how would you describe it?
I was just curious what it does. Is it just the library logo, or is it something like
It's
sort of
the,
more kid-friendly?
it's the 1,000 books before kindergarten logo, which because it's a
Oh.
statewide program. And
Okay,
yes, it is kid friendly.
cool. Okay, I was just kind of curious.
Makes
Because
sense.
I admit I don't go to the children's section these days, so.
Well.
Okay. So, all right. Anybody else have questions, or can we vote on it?
Good, that's great.
All right, let's vote. Patrick, 300
Yes.
additional 1,000 books before kindergarten bags.
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Lauren,
Yes,
Margaret,
Yes,
and myself, yes. All right, that is all motions from our co-directors.
excellent. Thank you, Donna and Natalia, for that hard work. It really helps all the detail on that things for us to make a good decision here. Okay, June Library.
thank you.
That is on the report that they gave us. Because we've got a couple folks in the audience, I guess we'd say here, we probably need to go through this. So if Talia or Donna, you want to take us through the report there?
Are we doing operations?
Yeah.
We are now fully staffed,
Apart from a director.
right? Which means that we've reopened the children's till 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. The HVAC is still not working. And we have asked DPW for a second AC unit for the children's room. We're still recommending masks for both libraries. And cleaning protocols, we still keep on top of that.
Great, thank you. And we can talk about the boys, your attachment there in a second. We're trying to, one thing that's interesting, like the library, like Ramsdale, there's COVID tests there, there's masks, and I think people just don't realize we have that stuff. And I don't know how we can get the word out, but it seems to me, especially with this thing being highly transmissible, I think people would, love to know that they have access to these things.
They've been going.
Have they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and Mason, they just keep going and they just keep refilling them.
Okay,
And it's not a situation where one person comes in and takes like 20.
yeah,
I mean, it's people take 1 or 2 boxes.
yeah. See, I didn't even
So-
know it was there till I went in, but I'm just thinking people might come in if they knew they were there too, just to have them at home, but there doesn't seem to be a good way. Eileen is on, actually, that's what we need. Eileen. So we do, as you're hearing now, we do have free COVID tests at the library. That they're at-home tests, but they can pick up a package at either library. So if you can spread the word, that would be great. And is there still a healthy amount of masks available for free?
Yeah,
Not,
well, not
not
as
so
many.
many, because we've been going through them quite frequently.
Wow,
Just
okay,
keep refilling them. And there's a woman that comes in, Southern Berkshire Health Collaborative or something
Yeah,
like
it's a
that.
Southern Berkshire Health
And
Collaborative.
Wow.
she just keeps coming in and checking and resupplying every week.
great, tremendous. So Eileen, if you can, that's a great public service that we should let everybody know that we've got that going. That would be excellent. Okay, I think that's good. So now let's, I guess,
Question,
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do people have to make an appointment?
No, they just come in. There's no appointment. They pick up the box and they go home with it.
Oh, okay. They don't get tested there.
No, they're
no,
home
at
tests.
home.
Okay. Okay, free COVID tests. Okay.
It's a rapid test, and I think there's 2 in a box. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good, great.
Yeah.
And I know that I picked one up, and it's a little confusing to figure out how when it expires, because it's small print on the back, and then you need to scan it with a phone to see. But the test that I got out of Ramsdale just a few days ago, it's good until the end of October, which is actually perfect because that's when they think there's going to be a surge. So just to keep that, I wish they had a more user-friendly way of seeing that information, because if somebody's eyes aren't that great, it's not set up so they can do that. But that's just something that's at least they're free. That's good. On the attachment, the
1 second, Carol, you have your hand up. Did you?
sorry.
This is just because I'm new and it's the very first item under the stats. I just wanted to know what Libby Overdrive is.
Oh, good question.
What is it?
Stats from June, the first line. Libby Overdrive, 1,920.
Libby and Overdrive are our ebook options.
Ebook, okay.
Yeah.
So the CW Mars is just rolled into the everything on the circulation?
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions on that part? Okay, that's good. I had a question on maybe it's not even appropriate at this point, but the deed of gift letter, is that exclusive to the library? Is that just for the boys collection, or is that just a generic thing that's we use?
It's not an approved piece of paperwork yet, and actually, which is why it says proposed draft language on it. And actually, this was just something that I put together based on the deeds of gift from the Historical Commission and the Historical Society, because they both do have those. And so I kind of combined their language. When we were talking to Mark about it, he said that when we actually get to the point where we're accepting a gift from Randy or anything going forward, he's going to have the town's general counsel draft it. So that it won't be, it won't be us trying to parse legal language, but this is just a proposed thing to see what a deed of gift might look like.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. So on the boys, actually one thing that actually has come up, and actually Marie had mentioned this to me as well. And Lawrence, this may be something you can help us on the mock-up of the boys statue out in front, which has been in the library now since December or whatever. But accompanying that is actually the information about it that was there, and there's some pages for feedback and things like that. But Marie had mentioned, somebody came into the library and said, geez, I'm a sculptor and I would love to, it's too bad that they've already chosen somebody for it. So that original information is still there, which actually.
Okay, I asked Julie a couple of months ago to take that information away and update it with what's going on. So now I know that it hasn't happened.
It didn't happen.
Yes, I'll make that happen because.
Thank you.
Yeah, I when I was in there, I said, this is already old news.
Yeah.
And it's not correct. So, okay, I will make that happen.
And actually, the good news is that one of the comments was, I'd like to donate, but what do I do? So the thing is, tell her it should be specific towards that, and then letting everybody know. I mean, if they are a sculptor and they want to put their hat in the ring, what will they do or whatever. But so that's, I appreciate, I think Maria's still on the line here, but I appreciate her knowing that, because I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody wants to take a moment, I could give it actually an update. It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, well, that's
We're
fine.
talking about it. I could
Yeah.
give you guys a little bit of an update.
I can
Please.
put it in building and grounds for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't we come back to that, Laura?
Okay,
So in order
that's
of the here. So what we have is the details again, which, who actually is this, whose work is this? Is this yours, Talia, on the reading room thing, or both of you?
That's predominantly me.
Okay. All right, why don't you take us, everybody has seen this, correct? It's there was 5 attachments there. This was one of them that Talia sent on Monday. Why don't you take us through just some of the, just a good overview of things here?
Okay. I mean, I think that in interest of time, I'm going to do it extremely quickly since you do all have it in writing. And so, you know, you can go back and dig into it and maybe ask questions at a later meeting, or, you know, however that works. But the way I've broken this down is to say that we understand that the town has, that the select board has accepted this donation, but there is some key information that the library is missing in terms of being able to figure out how to find space for it and how to work with it once it's in-house. And so what I tried to do with this is break it down into very clear chunks. And the first chunk is 3 bullet points that basically say, these are the things we really need to be able to take the first steps. One is we really need an inventory of the collection because we don't have that. It would be preferable if the donor, Randy, would be able to supply a linear foot estimate. So we have a sense, you know, there's 500 books doesn't mean anything because they can be pamphlets and they can be volumes. So we need to know that. In the best scenario, the donor would complete a deed of gift that would not be written by us, but would be written by an actual lawyer, so that the delineations of the gift are very clear. So it's not a situation where the donor then comes back in and either wants something back or doesn't like the way we've displayed it or whatever. So those are things that we would need in place to be able to move to the next step. And the next step is things that we have to consider going forward in terms of budgeting process. So in order to ensure a collection and also for any kind of curation, we need to have it evaluated by an external appraiser. So we have an idea of what we're looking at. Once that evaluation is complete, we would need to look into additional insurance costs, climate control and security for that space. And fine art insurance often covers different materials than standard insurance. So we would need to, you know, I don't have any idea how the town handles their insurance policies, but that would be something that would need to be thought about. So basically what I was trying to do is just flag things that I think are important and that Donna and I in meetings have thought are important things to be aware of as we think about accepting the collection and housing the collection. I am not a curator and I'm not an archivist. However, I do have friends who are preservation specialists, one at the National Archives and one at the Library of Congress. And so a lot of the material that I put in this is drawn from conversations with them. So then the split space and climate control, that's really just a discussion of the fact that we don't have climate control in the building. We don't have climate control in the archive space or the history room. Window air conditioners don't really cut it because they are air conditioners, but not climate control systems. And again, the degree of climate control we need is driven by the needs of the collection, which we don't have now because we don't really know what those needs are. And I'm just going through this. Also, one suggestion has been to just put a window air conditioner in the archive room, which is the currently closed space. One, that window is there for light only. It's not actually a window that opens. So that would involve replacing the window. And the other issue is that a standard window air conditioner would probably make a room of those dimensions too damp because of the way they drain. So it wouldn't actually be a good solution even if we replaced the window. And so those are more physical plant conversations about the space and accepting the donation, and or not accepting, but housing the donation and what is required in that. And, you know, we can talk at great length about that, but it kind of is the second piece. But we have to think about all of the different aspects as we go. So A leads to B leads to C. We kind of have to look at all of them. And then the last piece, which is the objective and mission piece, is to look at, you know, there are a lot of organizations in the town of Great Barrington with Du Bois in their title now. And I think that it would be in everybody's interests, you know, scholars, the people providing the information, random tourists stopping by, and people who plan a visit here specifically to see, you know, to see where Du Bois grew up. I think it would be in their best interest for there to be better communication about what's here and how all the different named organizations relate to each other. And, you know, also Amherst, not Amherst, UMass Amherst has a Du Bois Center that houses quite a lot of his writings and his specific work. And so what we would like to discuss is, in a public library, what is the best scope for presenting this kind of material, and also what is the best approach for partnership with other organizations. And that's something that is an objective and mission conversation that I think needs a lot of input from a lot of different people. One of the examples that we've used, because Donna and I went up to the Stockbridge Museum and Archives in the Stockbridge Library, and they have Jonathan Edwards' desk, which is an extraordinary piece of engineering. And there's a strong feeling that that should stay in Stockbridge. There's a lot of local feeling for it and people really love it. But all his other material and papers and everything else has been sent to Yale, which has the ability to catalog and preserve it in a way that a small library in Stockbridge just doesn't have that ability. So there is precedence for people splitting up collections, loaning collections, depending again on the needs of them, which again, we don't know what the needs are. And then the last piece is, what are the things that we can do in the library relatively quickly without waiting for an 18-month budget process to go through? And, you know, that is, we can, well, the shelving, which we've already discussed and tabled, partially reconfigure the local history room so that we can remove one or both of the tables that are in there and really open it up into much more of a reading room space. We can create signage. One of the issues about both the archive room and the local history room is that they are named donated spaces. So we could add to the history room signage, we could say that it is the local history and Du Bois reading room, so that it, you know, it names the space and it honors him and his legacy. In that space, we can include materials for patrons of all ages. We can provide and highlight information, the maps and directions to other local Du Bois sites and to the African American Heritage Trail, the Stockbridge Muncie exhibits at the Mission House in Stockbridge. We can, you know, try to provide some comfortable seating, again, depending on the friends and on the board in terms of what we can buy or reconfigure. And then we can absolutely collaborate with the other Du Bois organizations in town to really try to create a cohesive conversation about this man and his legacy. And that is the very quick version of what I said. Yes, Margaret?
Thank you. I'm so grateful for all of that expertise from you. And I will be the bad cop and say, I don't think, you know, pending learning more and changing my mind, I don't see why this collection should be going to the library. I should point out that it's a collector's collection relating to W.E.B. Du Bois. It's not a collection of W.E.B. Du Bois's papers. the Jonathan Edwards collection that's at the Beinecke in Yale is Jonathan Edwards' writings and some artifacts in addition to the desk that's still in Stockbridge. This is a collection of, secondary source material, a contract of Paul Robeson's, not clear how that relates to W.E.B. Du Bois. And of course, there's not more to say because we don't have an inventory of it. The second thing I would like to say is that libraries are not museums, and no donor can have the expectation that their collection is being given to a library in order to be primarily exhibited. And the reading, evidently, Mr. Weinstein doesn't see this as a collection that readers will access and take out, because it's a kind of collection of, a collector's treasures. Given all that, I'll leave it there. As I said, I recognize I'm being the bad cop, but I also speak from experience. And I think Natalia is extremely tactful about this, and I'm slightly less tactful, but I think there are a lot of issues here. And to restate, I'm kind of flabbergasted that the select board would agree to accept a collection, given how little we still have to learn about it, and given the mission of the Great Barrington Libraries, and given other wonderful organizations in town and elsewhere in Massachusetts that are professionally holding missions to support study of W.E.B. Du Bois. End of rant.
Well, I would say that I definitely sense in your presentation, Talia, that you also feel at least similarly to Margaret about this. And from what I can tell, for good reason. It's a big commitment to what nobody even knows what the collection is, I guess, because there's no inventory. And all of the things that would have to happen in that room. Now, from an outsider's view, I thought, oh, that sounds great. But now that I see that there are all these issues, and maybe it's not such a great collection, I'm not sure. And I don't know why I think the select board was just enthusiastic, is what I'm guessing. Like, oh, that's a great idea, but nobody was thinking as far down the road as you have with all of the potential problems. So I don't know what the plan is, but it seems like, at least without totally accepting it, really having a meeting with Randy and finding out really and truly what is it exactly he's trying to give away, and is he giving away something that is truly valuable, or is he just offloading stuff that is not necessarily. Yeah. So that's just my opinion about it. I have thought that it was a lovely idea. I know he told me he thought that Great Barrington should be in the name to, make sure people knew it was in Great Barrington, something about a reading room, but there wasn't a real decision on what it was going to be called. But I think that's almost already putting the cart before the horse, because it looks like it all really needs to be looked at more in depth. So that's my 2 cents.
I second both of you.
I mean, I just would like to jump in, Lauren, and say I didn't mean to come across as sort of smacking it down. It's just truly that I don't know what we're dealing with. And
Right.
Without
Right.
having that information, it's very hard to see how, what I should be doing. We can't make commitments if we don't know what we're committing to, basically. Because
So is there a plan to get that information, or are you having a hard time getting it from him?
we've had a hard time getting an inventory, and I would prefer to not talk further about that now until Donna and I have had a chance to check it
Okay.
with Mark.
Yeah, that's fine.
So yeah, that's,
Okay. Wow. Okay.
and likewise, if it turns out that there are real valuable treasures, I don't want to stick them on a bookshelf and have them damaged because they weren't cared for. So
Right.
it sort of goes both ways.
Yeah.
My considerations go both ways.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did indicate to me that he thought that the shelving that was in there was not adequate because it needed to be covered, like covered and locked. But is he providing covered, locked library shelving along with the collection?
No,
No.
he is not.
Right. So that's a little bit like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot to unpack here. One thing I want to kind of, we always get stuck on money, and I want to make sure that everybody understands. There's and Donna and Talia would already know about this, but it's called the Institute of Museum and Library Services. It's a federal government program. Last year, they awarded $425 million in grants, research, policy, goes to museums, libraries, and other nonprofits that are doing good things. There's organizations in Massachusetts that have received, in the vicinity of $200,000 for projects. This is, if it turns out that the collection is of value and this is something we need to move forward, there is money here. It's not town money. So just kind of forget about the money part of it. There's money.
Okay.
This is going to be a worthy thing. There's money all over the place for something like this. So what you mean, we could hire an archivist, we could do everything. We shouldn't do it if we can't do it right. If we decide we're going to do it, it's got to be a separate archivist paid for by grants, and the locked security cases, whatever we need, would all have to be figured out and all of that. So
What I'm not hearing concerns regarding the money. I'm hearing legitimate concerns regarding lack of information, which may lead to concerns about money in the future. But really, the initial problem is that there's not enough information, and the process by which this was received is not one that appears that either the trustees or the library was aware of, nor would have endorsed.
well, the process is slow. I mean, what we decided was, because with Margaret's background in this field, Margaret was the ideal one to be involved, and I guess they haven't even really met yet, is one thing. And Talia started the meeting out saying that because of the town budget, 18 months out, there was no money for this program. So that's why I just wanted to circle back to that about this. Money is not a problem. So I think it's just important that everybody realizes it's not town money, but there's money for this if it goes forward. So
I don't know that there would be money for it, but as Chris says, it all depends on the contents of the collection.
yeah, no,
Unless it's impressive, good contents, there won't be money for it.
Okay, good point.
yeah. So that's all we know at this point. So any other questions or any thoughts?
I guess my only other question would be is, do you have a plan to meet? Is there any kind of, I mean, I know you already said the timeline is, it's not going to happen by the end of August. But yeah, I mean, I guess someone, maybe it's not you, maybe the town manager, somebody needs to insist that before anything else happens, you need an inventory of this collection to see whether it's even worthwhile to move forward with it.
I
And
think
so,
Mark is leading this, I would assume. Is that
Yeah, I mean, Donna and I can certainly arrange a meeting with Mark and convey that. And I'm pretty sure that Mark will probably scrub through and watch at least excuse me, part of this recording. So I think he'll have a sense of both your concerns from your, in your own words, and we can also convey them. We don't currently have a plan to meet again because, like as a group, because what I was told was that the reason the meeting that was supposed to happen yesterday morning was canceled was because Randy felt that until we'd actually glassed in the shelves and moved forward, there wasn't really anything to discuss. And again, I was
Sounds like that's backwards.
and that
Yeah.
was
Not
not
work.
said to me. So I am repeating something I was told. So I am not swearing by that. But I think that Donna and I can certainly meet with Mark and say, we were asked by the board to ask you to get an inventory from Randy, so we know what we're actually dealing with.
Right.
I mean, that, I think that we're both comfortable, and Donna's nodding. We're both comfortable taking that on as sort of our next step.
Okay.
Could
Yeah,
I
I
suggest
mean,
that we,
yeah.
I suggest that we do an official vote on this. This helps memorialize what
Mhm.
we've said here. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
I think that's a good idea.
Somebody want to make a motion for
Yeah, I
that?
guess we need a motion.
Yeah,
Okay, I move that Talia and or Donna ask Mark Prohensky to get an inventory from Randy Weinstein before moving forward with this gift. Is that,
is everybody happy with that? Okay, we need
I
a second.
Well, I need a little bit more clarity on what the motion is, just so it,
okay.
just
I'm-
for official.
This is not my bailiwick. I'm a good seconder. Somebody else want to make a stab at it?
Before any further decisions can be made about the gift? Is that the part that,
The problem, it sounds like they've already made a decision at the select board level. I guess we're making a strong recommendation that this material be, what are we gonna say here? We don't know what we're getting here is what we're trying to do. So we're trying to figure out a way to word this. This is our recommendation to the town manager that this would be the first step. So if anybody can think of some eloquent words there.
We could just say the trustees recommend that the library receives a full inventory of the proposed donation prior to moving forward.
Mhm.
Second.
Okay,
Second,
yep.
that's great.
right? Sweetie?
So we've made our motions. Is there any further discussion? That's not, so we're ready to vote.
All right. Putting this in. Is there an official name for this donation? Or to how should I refer to it exactly?
We've been referring to it as the Randy Weinstein Du Bois donation, but I don't know that that's official in any way.
I'll refer to it as the inventory of the donation from Randy Weinstein.
Mhm.
So the motion reads, trustees recommend the library receive a full inventory of the donation from Randy Weinstein prior to moving forward with discussion or acceptance of the donation.
I would include the Du Bois collection in that, without stating that.
Yep.
Yeah, come on.
All right. All right. Let's vote for the recommendation. Patrick,
Yes. Excuse me.
Carol,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yeah,
Margaret,
Yes,
and myself, yes. So Motion passes.
Great. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna move right along.
Eileen has her hand up.
Yes, sorry. Thank you. Eileen. Does she have to unmute herself?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm talking away here. Could you read the motion once more? I wanted to make sure I have it.
Oh, I'll send you all the motions at the completion of the meeting, Eileen. You'll have
Terrific.
the full thing.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you, Eileen. Next on the agenda here is a treasurer's report.
Okay, Talia and Donna have been expertly taking on so very much in these weeks, which I'm sure I speak for all of us that we're so grateful for. And that's included their wrapping up the end of fiscal year stuff, because the fiscal year ended June 30th for the town. The library came within its budget, and as to now, late fees and such go directly to the town of Great Barrington. They don't go to the library. So when they tell us that Mason received over almost $24,000 in donations this past year, and Ramsdale over almost $13,000. I mean, that's significant. And they ended the year, the libraries ended the year with a state aid balance remaining of $23,469. Now, I wasn't clear, in my ignorance, I apologize, if that money can simply roll over to the next year or not. But the bottom line.
We think it can.
Oh, great. The bottom line is that, so to speak, that all is well with all of the budget lines for the libraries. And I think that's about it.
That's the first good financial news I've heard from anybody,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Here.
So congratulations. Oh my God. Thank you. Thanks, Talia, Donna, and thank you, Margaret. We're on to building and grounds now. And so Lauren, if you want to tell us about the progress with the statue.
Yeah. So at this point, there is an official board. We have our fiduciary sponsor, which is the nonprofit of the Berkshires with Liana Toscanini. We have a lawyer, a bank account, a website that will be up probably in the next week or so. We have a fundraising letter that we're starting with, working with Liana. We're starting with looking for large donors, bringing it down to smaller donors, at which point we will then be, I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but we will be bringing it out to the public to help fund anything they might want to fund. We did get our first big donation of $50,000. And so that's our first start to it. The next thing is Julie has been away. When she comes back, then we're finally sending out the request for proposals for, it's not that, the call for artists. And we already have, I think, four artists who are interested in applying. All Black artists. None of them are all that local, but people who have come to our attention or who have already found us. So we're still going to put out a call. We're not just going to choose someone, but there's some really good people out there doing this kind of work. I guess that's the report at the moment. Anybody have any questions for me? I'm happy to answer.
I just wonder if you have a guesstimate on what you're gonna budget for. What do you think it's gonna cost, not only to pay for the sculpture, but installation, you know, all the extra?
It's gonna be 250 to 300,000.
Okay,
And I have all of this stuff that I can share with you guys digitally. If you'd like, I can send you all the things that we're working on that, you know, we have a whole breakdown of all of the costs.
great.
And if anybody would like to see that, by all means, I have it.
Lauren, this is probably down the road, but I'm just really hoping they also budget accordingly for maintenance for this. thing. So it'd be hard for
The town has said that that is going to be a town, once they have it, that it's going to be part of the town maintenance. Because I asked the same question.
I think we should really try to see if they can help, like the Kennedy, Rose Kennedy Greenway in Boston. You know, that they've got all this money set aside for maintenance, and, you know, things will get, whether it be graffiti and this and that, but it's just be able to be cleaned up immediately. And the town has so many other things going on. We know how that is about getting things done. So we don't want to see that sit in something, be defaced or something or whatever.
All right, well, I will see if I can get a guarantee on that.
Yeah, it should be.
Or not. If I
Whatever
can't,
they need,
yeah.
it should be immediate that it's fixed, not
Yeah.
3 months later or something. That would be
Okay,
really,
that's a
And-
good point. And I did mention in our last meeting about that, about maintenance. And I was assured that that was not something that we needed to raise money for. But if we do, we do. And so,
you know, whether it be a nice garden that's surrounding it or whatever, it's the same thing. It's just, we don't have the capacity to do these things the way they should be done.
right.
So I
Well,
think
that is in the budget, as far as like the landscaping and all of that is in our budget to get that done.
the landscaping,
Right.
you know, so I think they're not gonna have any trouble raising money. So they should try to just make sure this part of the end result is
Mhm.
it's just in perpetuity, really taken care of.
Right.
In a way we're just not used to.
And
rough.
I agree with Patrick too, and we must be realistic here. There are going to be some people in town who are upset about that statute, including maybe town employees working in the maintenance department. You know, not all of us, you know, champion Du Bois, you know, as we do. So I think the point is well taken that we can't ask the DPW to prioritize the maintenance of that statue if it is defaced. So it's good to have a little protective,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
fund there to
Mhm.
prioritize it over and above expecting DPW to just run and jump to take care of it because we treasure it and want it taken.
Okay, I agree. That's a point well taken.
And let's
I mean,
hope
I will bring that to, to the board.
Yeah, as it is at the Boys Garden, unless it's changed in the last couple of weeks, it's just not taken care of. You know, it looks pretty bad. And it always has. So that's a perfect example. I mean, this time of year, a good garden needs to be maintained, needs to be tended to once a week.
Right.
Tangled every day, they have people doing something. So I think this is the kind of thing that should be done in that type of with care and fashion. So just see if they can, I mean, it's Julie, it's not us, but we're just strongly recommending
Mhm.
that because of the reality of the way
Yeah,
things are.
yeah.
And they
I
may
agree.
want an ongoing committee that takes pride that comes to weed and maintain and whatever. And that happens with other projects too.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. I will also bring that to the board. I think those are both good
Thank you.
points.
Thanks. Anybody else, anything on these issues, building and grounds? No, good. I think we're on to citizen speak. Eileen, if you're still there, any other questions? I'm not sure if you're still here.
I'm still here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
can.
can hear you.
Okay,
wanna
I
know if
can't
you-
quite figure out mute and unmute. But I have to run anyway to the planning board.
Okay, so no questions then.
No questions.
Okay, thanks for coming though. Appreciate your help.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And then board, anything else that we should cover? I mean, I think the one thing, again, we've thanked them already several times, but Natalia and Don, I mean, this is so smooth and so thorough. It's just beyond, you're just beyond what's expected of you at this point. And I know you're staying late tonight, and we greatly appreciate that too. So,
They're awesome. They are absolutely an awesome team, and I'm only so sorry that we can't have one of them as our director.
well, we got him as our co-director. So thing is, they ain't going anyplace. We're not gonna let them go. We
So-
should vote on that too.
Know how much you're appreciated.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can't tell, but we're curtsying.
okay, okay. So and I think that's it. We got it 6:56 now. So unless there's anything else, unless anybody has any objections, I think we should adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a motion?
Guess they want to
Yeah,
Moved.
Seconded.
Right. All right, moved and seconded.
Great. So,
Uh, Patrick,
yes.
we out of here? All right.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay,
bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.